What is going on, everybody? Welcome to hanging out and talking about guitar stuff while we drink coffee. Today, I want to talk about uh, the money grab. So, obviously, the inspiration for a lot of these videos are just kind of funny, common terms or annoying terms or just kind of prolific terms across the guitar community that I think need further sort of conversation because they get sort of misused, I think. And I think money grab is one of those. I think, personally, I'm going to tell you, I think a cheap guitar or an inexpensive guitar is more of a money grab than an expensive one. And we're going to get into why. Um, typically people think that Gibson comes out with, some special edition and they're doing it for a money grab. But I don't think that's the case. More expensive guitars oftentimes are not as profitable. And we're going to talk about the numbers. Having a Squire or an inexpensive guitar is usually a better business decision because they're less exciting. So we're gonna talk about that. When you see a $5,000 guitar, it just doesn't mean that you have more money. People see a number and instantly they think what $5,000 looks like in your hand. But don't confuse price of a thing with profit. Every guitar has materials, it has labor, it has shipping, it has marketing, it has warranty support that's kind of baked into it. It's got dealer margin, which is probably 40% of the cost right off the top. Administrative overhead to basically pay all those employees and take care of HR and all that kind of stuff. So it's not actually how much does the guitar sell for that determines whether a company is making any money or not. It's how much money is left over when when all the costs are paid for. And that number can vary wildly depending on the type of guitar it is. So let's do some math. So let's do some Squire math. I know these numbers are a little bit of a shot in the dark, but I know also from what I know and folks that I've talked to and people I don't want to out anybody who's given me any information, but let's just say I've gotten this stuff from fairly reliable sources. So what we're going to do is we're going to take $450. This is numbers from a year ago or something. $450 Squire. Okay. The dealer buys that for roughly 60% of that. Okay. So the dealer cost is $270. Estimating how much Fender pays Cortec and etc. You're looking at about $110 probably for that guitar to be built in Asia, which is an eye-opener in itself. Shipping, logistics, getting the thing here, figure $20-$30. They actually put a warranty reserve on products, so figure $5 for that. Usually it's about 5% of the cost of making the guitar. Marketing allocation. So what we end up having is a total cost of the instrument, all said and done, $140, $145, $150, something like that. We made $270 on that guitar, or we sold the guitar to the dealer for $270, which means that we've made $125 on a $500 guitar as Fender. Okay. Gross profit margin, 46%. That makes sense. Okay. And if you think these numbers are not correct, anybody familiar in business structure, and this is part of the problem, I always talk about this, that people don't understand how business works. They see a price tag and they get offended. But a 46% gross profit margin will probably at the end of the year translate to about 5 or 8% in net profit after everything, which is kind of where you want to be. So these numbers are realistic, and to be honest with you, these numbers could apply to any business. These numbers are a formula that need to exist on an imported product for somebody to make a living, for somebody to even stay solvent as a business. So that's why I know these numbers are right. Plus, I also have some specific information where I got these numbers. So they might not be to the penny, and there might be somebody from Fender getting in here and, okay, yeah, he's full of crap, but it's because they probably have more details than I do. So 46% profit margin on a $500 guitar makes sense. But remember, we're only making $125 on a $500 guitar. Now, let's say Fender sells 50,000 of those guitars. That's $6.25 million. That's good in gross profit. That's 6.25, not in sales, but in gross profit on the guitar. 6.25 million in gross profit. That's good. That's what we need. We need gross profit. Okay, that'll end up at being net profit. And your shareholders don't get that 6.25, right? They get a very small percentage, probably 3 or 4%, 3%, 2%. It's very small. So when we talk about shareholders driving everything, they're only getting a small portion of your $500 guitar. Okay, just so you know that. So let's flip it to the other end of the market, and we'll go to the custom shop. We got a $5,000, and I know they're more than this and less than this, but we're going to use $5,000 so the money's easy, because we're using 500 and 5,000. Makes sense. So 5,000, same thing. Dealer cost is going to get probably 40% of that ish. So that means that the guitar costs $3,000. They buy the guitar from Fender for $3,000. Now the costs are much different on a custom shop. The materials cost more. Okay, so where you would pay, say, $50 for a body blank from Warmouth, you'd probably pay $200 for a body blank, right? In the bulk side of that, you could probably get a body blank for $80. Okay. Over in Indonesia, you could probably get a body blank for $15, $20, $15, like really, really $20, really cheap. Custom shop stuff's going to be different, especially if you're using fancy wood and all that kind of stuff. Even on a custom shop guitar, you could get up into a couple of $100s for a body blank. Like it's expensive. You have hardware, you have electronics, you have finishing. Figure $1,000 in labor because of all of the relicking and stuff. Now here's where it gets interesting. The marketing costs for a custom shop guitar go way up. Okay. Overhead goes up because you have more expensive people doing the jobs, right? You could easily say that out of that $3,000 that they sold that guitar to the dealer for, that $2,000 of that would be cost of making the guitar. It doesn't cost them that much to make you don't know how business works if you say that. I don't have my flag ready right now, but you are an idiot flag pops up if you think that. I'm just telling you. I mean, we've all thought it at some point. I'm not saying that you're an idiot. I'm saying that we've all thought that at some, like, what the heck? How does it work? And then you look at the details and you go, oh, okay. All right. I understand. All these people have to get paid to do all this stuff. The marketing is higher. So now they've made $850 on a $5,000 guitar, which sounds like a lot. That's cool, right? And even if they made $1,000 on it, we're really only looking at 28 to 30% gross profit instead of 46. Okay. Now they're only going to sell a small percentage of guitars. Let's say they sell 2,000 of this particular model or rollout of custom shop. $1.7 million in gross profit, as opposed to in the same time period selling that bulk at what did we say, 6.25 million. So as much as people want to say that a fancy guitar is a money grab, it actually costs more money to make the more expensive guitars, and it hurts profit. I'm sure you've heard stories of car companies or other industries, car companies where I think of it most, where they will come up with this halo product, right? The Bugatti Veyron, for example. Volkswagen AG owned Bugatti, and so Ferdinand Piëch put all his eggs in the basket and came up with this amazing car. Well, I think they're making money with it now, but when it first came out, it was a loss. It was a loss because they were trying to create a halo product that everybody would look to and understand that Volkswagen AG had the power to make a really cool thing. To be honest with you, that's what custom shop guitars are. That's what they are. We'll get into that in a minute. The real winner here is volume, okay? And it's not just volume by volume. We'll talk about this in a second. It's really interesting because it's a different part of the market. The hardest part in manufacturing something like this, and I don't think people understand this, is keeping the factory busy, okay? So when you don't own the factory, so for example, Squier, they hire a factory. Okay, there's a bunch. Fender, I think, has like 24 factories around the world that they use to make stuff. Something in that. It's low 20s. If they say, "Hey, we're not going to have you build any guitars anymore," or "We need less guitars this month," that factory says, "All right, well, we'll just find somebody else and we'll fill your slot," and it'll be very difficult to get that slot back. But at scale, they can get those parts down cheap. And oftentimes they don't have much control over the materials. If you say, Fender says, "Hey, Cortec or whoever, we want you to build this guitar and we want it to cost $500. And they're going to say, "Okay, well, we can't use mahogany. We need to use NATO. We can't use such and such. We need to use this other wood instead. Pale Ferro or whatever instead of rosewood." Okay, sounds good. We'll just go with whatever you say because we want the guitar to cost $500 as long as it looks the same and the pickups are designed by us, but the pickups need to cost this much, etc. That's what we're going to do. That's how it works. But that scale gets spread, all the costs of that get spread across huge volume, and efficiency grows through the roof. And so it becomes cheaper to make those instruments. Custom shop guitars, there's a lot of friction there. There's a lot of friction from the point that I decide to buy a custom shop guitar. So let me explain this to you. If I want to buy a custom shop guitar, I'd probably either order one already done from Sweetwater. But if I was going to buy a custom, like have one made, I would call my buddies at Casino Guitars. That's probably who I would use because I really like them. And I would say, "Hey," and I would talk to Jonathan, and he would probably take hours out of his day if necessary to help me finalize all the specifics about a custom shop guitar, the finishes, the neck shapes, all the thing. Okay, it would take me. He would take time out of his dealership day to do that. He would then spend time. He would have to spend time after I called, submitting the order, processing the order, taking the deposit, all that stuff. He would then have to communicate with the custom shop over the 4 or 5 years that it would take for this guitar to get built. He would have to deal with me calling him and bugging him, "Where's my guitar?" Right? All that customer support. And then on the manufacturing side, somebody literally gets a build sheet and they say, "Oh, yeah, we don't have this laying around. I got to make this, right? I can't pull this off the shelf." And we're not actually, so that means they got to program a CNC machine. That means they got to blah, 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 blah for all this custom stuff and the finish and the everything. It slows it all down, right? When they do build guitars on spec and they sell them at Sweetwater, like the team built stuff that's on Sweetwater, and you can just go buy it for $5,000 or whatever, they take a risk by building a one-off guitar that they hope somebody will buy. So now that money is sitting out somewhere, right? And the dealership will assume that risk when they buy it as well. Profit per guitar is bigger, but profit margin and profit per employee involved and profit per shop space and etc. is way lower, way lower. It has a huge impact on that building's ability to make money when you slow it down, either by using more people, that costs more, or by taking up more space because the process costs more. It's all very, very expensive. Now, let's go back to Jonathan at Casino Guitars. Even though he may make 40% of 5,000 versus 40% of 200, it's a lot more money. But when you think of on the dealer perspective, this is where the money grab happens. People think it's a money grab to buy a $5,000 guitar or try to sell a $5,000 guitar, but it's not. If I buy a custom shop guitar and I go to Casino Guitars, what am I going to buy that day? A guitar. When's the last time I bought a guitar at Casino? I can't remember. Because I'm going to go to Casino and I'm going to buy it for my custom shop needs. That's who I'm going to go to, right? But that means I'm going to buy a guitar from them, what? However so often I can afford to buy a $5,000 guitar, right? Now let's talk about the inexpensive guitar person who's complaining about the money grab, okay? So we've got a new guitar player that comes in on day one, and he buys a Fender Squier for $450, okay? He also needs a starter amp. He also needs a strap. He needs a cable. He needs picks. He needs a gig bag. He needs lessons. He needs a setup. All of a sudden, we're at $1,000. 40% of $1,000 is more than 40% of $450. So now 40% of $1,000, he's got $400 in gross profit in this thing. But he's probably more likely, that dealer's probably more likely to do that 3-4 times today than a couple times a week on a custom shop guitar. And they are, with a custom shop guitar, you're selling a guitar most times, maybe more in the future, but you're selling an entire ecosystem to a new guitar player, right? And Fender knows this too. That's why they have the app. That's why they have the tuners that are branded Fender. That's why the brand name matters, right? When people worry, well, you're just buying a brand. Well, here's the thing. When somebody sees a familiar brand and they go, I'm going to buy all Fender stuff. I'm going to buy all Gibson stuff. Especially at the beginning, as newer guitar players, that's what happens. That's what you do. Because they understand that they are allegedly a trustworthy brand. And so that's why it matters. So why does the custom shop, Gibson, Fender, all these places exist? Is it a money grab? Are they doing this because they're trying to money? Such a funny, it doesn't even make sense to me. Because a business is supposed to take your money. That's how we stay in business. That's how I stay in business, right? Now, I don't take it unkindly. I don't take it thoughtlessly. But, I need your money. I give you a thing, you give me money. That's how it works. That's what we do. So that's a stupid term anyway. So if you're going to make so much profit and it's way easier to outsource everything and have a Chinese guitar, then why does Fender bother with the custom shop? Why does Gibson bother with their custom shop? Because nobody dreams about owning a Squier beyond. So I don't want to say nobody dreams about owning a Squier, because there's probably a youngster right now or a new guitar player who's like saving up for one, and that's really, really cool, right? But once that's acquired and you're like starting to appreciate the guitar and you're starting to understand stuff, you know that there's cool stuff out there. And it's just like somebody in the comments yesterday went on some long diatribe. I didn't even read it. Why do you encourage people to buy expensive stuff? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I have no idea what he said. I didn't even read the whole thing. It was like literally like 2 comments like this long. Don't you dream? Don't you dream about stuff? Like when I was a kid, I had a picture of a white Lamborghini Countach on my wall. I had a picture. Everybody knows that picture. The black background with the white Lamborghini Countach. Anybody of my age knows that. I also had the picture of, remember the silver Porsche 959 that was just the back half of it on a poster? We actually have a T-shirt on our website named for our flat six pickups. That's the back of a Porsche Widowmaker. No, it's for our Widowmaker pickups. It's the back of a Porsche 939 Widowmaker. Like, we dream of stuff, right? My wallpaper on my computer is of my dream pistol. I actually do own it now, but it's like my dream pistol. We have that stuff. We aspire to things, right? Um, it's super neat, right? If you own a Volkswagen Golf, one day you'd want a GTI. Like, if you're into car stuff, I'm aspiring to own a 911 at some point. I don't have one. I will have one someday. Have one on my wall, have one on my computer. Like, you dream of that stuff. That's where custom shop guitars come in. Uh, they elevate the brand. They show potential of what can be done. They also use it to do marketing tests. So they'll come out with like a $5,000 custom shop version. They'll only make, or $15,000 custom shop version. They'll only make 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, 30 of them. They sell out in 2 seconds. They're like, oh, okay, well, let's make a regular production model. Well, if that does really good, well, then we'll make an Epiphone model, and that pays for all of that R&D as it kind of trickles down to Epiphone. Like, Gibson's really good at doing that. They're very good at that. So the Halo product helps you sell the stuff that comes behind it, right? Porsche Macans are basically just and I used to have an Audi SQ5. It's just an Audi SQ5 with different skin on it. That's probably their most popular car. They do that so they can sell some 911s, but they sell the Porsche Macan to stay alive. Same way. Same thing with guitar stuff. They sell Squires to stay alive so that they can build some custom shops and have a cool brand. That's basically how it works. That's the thing. But the profit comes from the inexpensive guitar. The profit comes from all of you who complain about expensive guitars. That's where their money is coming from, is from you, not from them. Just so you know, it's a weird juxtaposition. Yeah, that's it. I think people see it backwards. They just see it backwards because they don't want to admit to themselves they're rolling it. But we all have to do it because it's fun.